Hello, this is State Senator Robert Peters of the 13th District. I'm sitting here in Hamburg in Germany, and this has been truly an informative and revelatory experience. The first thing we did was visit a juvenile detention center where you saw a sense of humanity and humanization of people who are incarcerated. You saw wraparound services and programming. They don't incarcerate people under the age of 14. They put massive investments in things like making sure that they are doing sports, that they're getting social emotional help, trauma help, they're getting prepared for work. There are folks who are in there that are older than 18, not just being sent immediately to adult detention. Then we went and talked to folks who work in the mayor's office and just understood, Hamburg's relationship to the rest of the world. Hamburg is a sister city to the city of Chicago. It's the second city of Germany. It has an immense amount of history. And what you learn is just the fact that they very much don't want to be seen as a brutal country, as a brutal city when it comes to particularly their working class population and the incarceration system. And then what we did on Friday was we talked to the Minister of Justice, the Ministry of Justice office, and it just makes you feel disgusted about how we do things in America, how brutal we do things in America, how it doesn't do anything to make us safer. And in fact, to see the faces of Germans disgusted to hear about how we treat people in our prisons and how we detain people in our jails was really eye-opening. It wasn't just the fact that we learned about what they do in Hamburg, but the way that they looked after we taught them about what we do in America was in itself one of the most embarrassing things to have to go through. And then lastly, had an amazing conversation with folks who do a form of violence prevention, and just an unbelievable conversation about what's going on here in Germany and how similar things are to what's going on in the United States of America. There's something that you see particularly between Hamburg and Chicago, and that's a series of crises that are just so similar. So this has been an unbelievable trip. It's something I'm going to take back to Illinois. I'm going to be as annoyed and obnoxious to my colleagues as possible because they have no proof that being tough on crime does anything for anybody. And in fact, right here in Hamburg and right here in Germany, a place that has a brutal history in its recent past, that we can in fact be kind, humanistic, and lead from the heart, and also rooted in a true social science of uplifting communities. And so hopefully in Illinois and in the United States of America, we can do better. And we don't need to feed the most dangerous reactionary wolves out there.
What was a highlight for the trip, and what do you hope to take back with you to Illinois?
There was a couple of very important meetings that we did. First and foremost, the one that we did with the representative from the Ministry of Justice, who, during her conversation and educating us about the general statutes that govern juvenile justice in Germany, she was really, really surprised when she learned that many of the things that we were trying to seek from her, meaning the treatment of children, were not available to children in Illinois. And so we asked her for the statute that governs it. She had already brought it and prepared it for us. Once we began to look at it, we realized that their focus here in Germany is to make sure that children have a real opportunity for repair, so that we are not, as a state, harming them, but helping them to deal with issues that may be challenging, criminal conduct that may not be well thought out, because children can't think through those things and they recognize it. That was something that I thought was really, really important. When we visited the juvenile prison, it is not a detention center in the traditional sense. The only thing that I recognized as a prison was the fact that there was barbed wires. But the inmates had a humanitarian experience, even in prison, where they were able to wear their own clothing. They had some level of identity that they could retain, even though they were completing prison sentences for serious crimes. The objective that we learned as we visited the prison and talked to the administrators about the process of juvenile treatment in the country, the whole entire thing that I walked away with is that they wanted to make sure that the children learned from their mistakes, that they were able to repair the harm, and that they could find a way forward that was productive for them as well as for the community. That's what I want to take back. When we began to work on legislative initiatives, our goal is to raise the number, or the age, I would say, raise the age for juvenile defendants so that we can protect them, because many of them are unaware of the serious nature of the crimes based on their education, their maturity level, the brain development, and behavioral science. We have to recognize how important those things are if we are going to provide a true restorative justice approach for juvenile detention and restoration for them. I hope to take that back and challenge some of the things that we do in Illinois that don't take consideration of the whole. First and foremost, I was appreciative of the trip to the Ministry of Justice because they really got us to understand why the German law does not charge children under the age of 14 criminally. That is an important thing. And what they said is the science tells you that children are not developed in a way that they can understand criminal conduct in their acts. That is very different than the United States. We are charging children as young as 8 as adults in the United States, and in Illinois in particular, which I think is fundamentally against human rights, and we should adopt the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Children in the United States, because that allows us to protect them in a greater way. And even if there's antisocial behavior, meaning we don't want them to commit criminal conduct, in Germany they provide a way to address that is not criminal and does not include the legal system for children under the age of 14. I think that's extraordinarily important, and we need to look at that in Illinois. Something else that I learned from the conversation at the Parliament was that they also provide them youth court assistance services. These are NGOs that work with the government specifically when a child under 14 commits an act that is considered or deemed criminal in the adult case, but they cannot charge them with criminal conduct. They send them to other programs that can help them deal with antisocial behavior. I think that's more productive than to criminalize an entire generation of children. And then lastly, I think something else that I took note of during our conversation was that prison is the last resort for sending children. That's a concept that we need to understand and maybe embrace. Children going to prison, and certainly in the cases where we have in Illinois, in many cases they learn to be better criminals. They are not provided services that help to move them away from the antisocial behavior. That's something I think we should look at in the state of Illinois. And then I think overall we kept hearing the same thing: human dignity, human dignity, human dignity. That was written in their constitution, and it's written within their complete statute of laws that govern youth offenders. And so I think that that's an important part that we need to go back to, because the focus for us is not on human dignity. And in so many ways we focus on the rights of the victim. And even if the victim wants human dignity for the person who may have committed this, there's very little way for them to get there. And so I think we can provide a greater point of access to get to human dignity, treat children as children and not as adults, and then allow them to have mechanisms to deal with antisocial behavior. That's what I learned.
Perfect.
Fred Weatherspoon, Precious Blood Ministry of Reconciliation. Takeaways from this trip. First of all, I want to thank you for actually involving us in this trip. It was a great trip for us. The trip first was actually like just first going out the country for the first time, so it was awesome. I had never done that before in Germany, a place I had never even sort of thought about going to. It was a good thing. I really enjoyed that. Well, so for me, a couple things about this trip. The first thing I'll mention is actually visiting the youth facility, what we call prisons. The warden actually asked that we should stop referring to these places as prisons. But I think just meeting the young fellas who were there and hearing their story, and actually seeing how they was responding to the treatment that they was getting in that facility. And I was encouraged by that. First of all, it was a humane treatment. It was treatment that in America we don't get a lot in these places. So to see these young people being treated as human beings by staff, and also treating the staff as though they're humans, right? I can see they had a real good, genuine relationship with the staff, and then hear about all the different programs that they were offering and giving as it relates to work and just as important mental health opportunities, which are so important in these places. So fully hearing that and listening to the different conversations that that was had about that was interesting. Yes, and visiting actually, and another part of the trip that I really enjoyed was visiting City Hall. I think that was just awesome. Getting a chance to actually meet the people from the Ministry of Justice and people from the mayor's staff, and hearing their approach to various issues was interesting, and sort of trying to figure out what can we take from that we can apply in our country was interesting. I think they're farther ahead on a lot of these issues than we are. And just overall, just the camaraderie of the people who was a part of this trip was good. And the chance to meet the senator and the state rep and you yourself, Bessie, was nice. It was fun. So yeah, I really enjoyed this trip, and I do recommend, if you ever have the opportunity to be a part of a trip like this, you should take it. And if you ever, just in general, you have the opportunity to come to Hamburg, you should take advantage of that. So.
Name Joe Montgomery, from Precious Blood Ministries of Reconciliation. I'm a scan navigator / mentor for youth. My experience here in Germany was eye-opening and kind of like upset with how we run things back at home. As far as with the juveniles, I feel like they do I think they have a very good planning when it comes to juveniles as far as helping them when it's time to go back home. I feel like in the U.S. we don't take any real initiative into treating our kids with respect and dignity. Out here they do, and not only are they able to have access to things that we don't have, they don't put punitive type of punishments on them. They don't talk to them crazy. They are not always making them feel less of themselves. They dignify each other as human beings. Rather, we try to take the humanity out of anything as far as incarceration goes, whether it's juvenile or adult. I think meeting with the Department of Justice representative yesterday was a big eye-opener for me as well, because just reading some of their laws and how they would rather not prosecute kids under 14, and in majority cases they would rather not send a kid to jail at all, no matter what the circumstance might be. The prosecutor will advocate for not to send a kid to jail. So that's something very different that I ever experienced in my life. Normally a prosecutor, only way they don't want you to go to jail in Chicago is if they don't have enough evidence to put you in. So they'll do an SOL or something like that. But out here, they look for a better alternative. They want you to thrive. They want you to be able to get back to society and work hard, and they give you the tools to do that. I said we was at a juvenile place, a detention center, and the kids was in there doing welding classes. You can't even get that in adult prisons for real. So let them have it in a juvenile prison. And for people that don't know, welding is a very good skill to have. That's something you can take with you for a long time, and adapt that as a kid and let your mind get around knowing how to utilize tools and be trusted like that, and it'll do something for your mental stability anyway. So something I want to take back. I think for me, meeting with Labito, just they philosophy in a way, not their philosophy, but how they not only challenge their government in a way, but they also stay true to their work at the same time. So I wanna be able to keep doing that too and have that same positive outcome for myself as I always had. But seeing it going on in another country, let me know like what we do at the center is very important. And as long as we stick to our philosophy and more focus on relationship and building, we'll be okay. So. Yeah.